Hello everyone, I'm coming to you live from Toronto, but I think by the time you get to it, it would no longer be live, it would be recorded. And thanks to technology, I'm able to join you today. What I want to speak to you today about is something that I call family ties. And although many of you know that Dr. Nishi Hanif is my elder sibling, I'm speaking about a different kind of family. A family that you earn, and a family that is giving. I'll start out by an early childhood memory. I remember it was about 6 or 7 when my dad brought home the neighbor's son, whose family has been infamous in the neighborhood as being the what we would call in South Africa a Tutsi family. Everybody was a vagabond of some sort, and this young man, known to be a pickpocketer perhaps, or something else, my dad said it was his son. He wanted to bring him under his arms and try to rehabilitate him. I didn't know these kinds of details, I know them now, but I just know him as John. And it was then, I think, in my mind, I learned that how you become a family member. A few months later on, I think maybe about a year or so ago, I found this elderly African gentleman who was a Fulani man who my dad had brought home from the mosque. And I just knew he was staying with us. It seemed to be quite a long time. I don't know how long it was. But he was with the family and was with us for quite some time. I guess he was visiting from Nigeria on some Islamic sort of journey. And I'm saying these things is because that, you know, society evolves in many ways, and it's really what you see your families doing as normal behavior. It's including people and bringing them on board when they seem not to have a place to be, that you realize that an extended family is somewhat a little bit more special than other families. And I'll tell you a little bit about my journey in South Africa. I got to South Africa in 1994, very excited to be there. It's an exciting time. My first job, which was with SADI, South African Institute for Distance Education, learned a lot about the education system and what had to be fixed and how they were going about doing that. Soon after, I was recruited by Wits University and headed up the Career and Development Unit. And the family ties started there, I think, more so, because it was a more permanent job. And that's where many of you who will be meeting Mark de Klerk worked with me then. From there, I went to L'Oreal. And L'Oreal, I was there for quite some time as well, and had to develop an HR department. And there's another set of family there, the team that I developed there that I'll speak to you about later on. And from there I did some consulting in higher education, can't get away from it, for the tertiary education and linkage projects, and that's where I meet the significant person that many of you would know in the room, or when you get to Zululand, as Mama Gugu, Gugu Gule, and a whole group of other women that worked in linkages projects for predominantly disadvantaged institutions at the time. Later then I went back to Wits. Wits seems to be, there's a thread coming back there in the internationalization office. And there yet another family. People who work with you, you spend more of your time with them than anyone else. And the longest time relationship I've had, I think, in a working type of relationship, has been with POA, Pedagogic Action. And I became to know about POA just by default, although Nisha's my sister, and we all have talk about all the things in the family, all the things we're doing in life. Very rarely do we speak about what we actually do at work. And I want you all to remember this figure I'm about to tell you. And hopefully by the end you realize how important that figure is, and perhaps many of you contribute to this figure and don't even know about it. But the number I'm about to tell you is something that's been published recently, and published, unless you're really looking for it, you probably would not find it. But it's a UNESCO number, a number that's been published by the UNESCO World AIDS Day. And this number is 1.2 million. Just remember that number, 1.2 million. Getting a little goosebump about it, but I guess sometimes things come full circle. Getting to learn about what was happening in higher education, going into different places and understanding what was happening. I think when I started my job at WITS, I became aware of the fact that there were new students coming onto the campus whose, I think 90% of the students perhaps were first generation to get to university, coming from very disadvantaged backgrounds, from a variety of backgrounds. And I was learning about what was happening to young people, people who were either raped or sexually abused in some way and ending up contracting HIV or AIDS. And in a counseling environment or an HR environment, this is where you hear what was happening and how you were dealing with it. And I had a sort of a transient conversation with my sister and learned about the project she had developed and what she was doing in Jamaica. And I said, wow, we in South Africa, now I'm a we, in South Africa, we're having this problem where it's at epidemic proportion, and this type of project that you're doing, in particular because it's about people who have low literacy or semi-literate or not literate, would really, really make an impact and beyond what we can think of. But nonetheless, we spoke about it, it came about, she spoke to the university. The university loved the idea, but you know, everything got to talking about Johannesburg. That's where we were, in Johannesburg. And you know, it's really not the right place to go. Cape Town's a better place to go, and trying to make the point of what this could do for people here took a bit of a, you know, what's it called? Cajoling to make that happen. Had to fix the numbers a bit to make sure that we had one more day extra in Cape Town, so it will be a Cape Town project going to other places so that we can make it happen. It did happen. It did happen. I had left WITS at that time and had moved on to L'Oreal by the time it started happening. We started off in L'Oreal working with the laborers, people who had never had education or access to this kind of information. Then we moved on to the hairdressers. It was the most exciting part, I thought. I did too. I had not seen that in depth. The number of hairdressers and the number of people that really valued what we did. And a lot of the credit, of course, goes to the project itself, how it was developed, the pedagogy of action, bringing in that family and making all those things happen. Moved on from WITS with the TEL project, exposed the relationship to Zululand, people like Merle Hodges at CPUT. There are so many other places that the project went and so many people that helped. It was like this culmination of having family ties everywhere you go, that if something was exposed to a family member, you will make sure that somebody take care of you and make that happen. Carrying on through, we came back to WITS University and ensure that the project also went there. Many of the international students being taught back in several languages, not only that in South Africa, but to go back to their home countries. And the number I mentioned to you, again, is something that hopefully when you read the paper that I've sent through, we started a project at L'Oreal where it became a training program that every new employee, every new hairdresser, every sort of training would have this training component with this. In 2001, the then head of L'Oreal, Mr. Owen Jones's wife, who was commissioned by the United Nations to come through and have a look at what was happening. Silently, she observed everything that I showed her what had been accomplished. And I had left L'Oreal by then afterwards, and lo and behold, it became a national program and an international program. And what I'm going to do is read to you now. And so you'll excuse me for not looking at you, or for you not looking at me. It says, to this end, L'Oreal mobilizes its international network of partner salons each year to participate in the Hairdressers Against AIDS support of World AIDS Day. In 2010, more than 1.2 million hairdressers across the world are expected to participate in the program, including the Partners Salon in Santon, Loponia Mall, Jabulani Mall. L'Oreal South Africa aims to eventually expand the project to include every partner salon in its extensive network salons across the country. So, POA, on the L'Oreal statistics alone, a lot has been accomplished. In closing, I want to say that POA will always be with me wherever I am in the world. Hopefully something else will evolve for POA that we can continue to work on in some way. And I wish you all the best of liberations, and I hope my little antidote of how I saw something that could happen and how all of you have made it happen. And I'm sure I'm going to miss all the things that you're going to say, but I'm sure it's going to be recorded as I'm sending this tape to you, that perhaps I'll be able to see what you've done. Thank you, and may God bless all of you. May you have a wonderful time together, and include me in your thoughts. Thank you.